Hi, I'm Zach Rhodes,
I'm Hayden Williams.
I'm Christian Harris.
I'm Nate Gerber.
I'm Anthony Green.
and this is our diversity poster project on the underrepresentation of African American coaches in the NFL.
Just a little background on the topic. Diversity when it comes to hiring head coaches in the NFL has been a huge problem ever since the league was adopted. And in 2003, Art Rooney, then president of the Pittsburgh Steelers, helped enact the Rooney Rule, which would require every team to consider at least one minority candidate for their open head coaching jobs. And also in 2003, the Detroit Lions were fined $200,000 for failing to interview at least one minority coach before they hired future head coach Steve Mariucci. And the league also threatened to fine teams $500,000 in a draft pick for any future violations. And finally, in Super Bowl 41 became the first Super Bowl where two coaches of color were pitted against one another.
So kind of the basis for this entire poster project was the background and the facts, obviously. And as we dig into the facts, we stumbled across the first African-American head coach was Art Shell. He was the coach of the Oakland Raiders, as we see right here in this picture, and he was the coach in 1989. Then moving on, between 1963 and 2012, 7 people of color were hired as NFL head coaches. And that was compared to over a 50-year period where the NFL teams had hired 124 white head coaches. And so you can automatically see the huge disparity over a 50-year period. At the beginning of the 2012 NFL regular season, there were 6 non-white head coaches, but took up about 18.8% of the head coaches, compared to 26 white head coaches, which would be around 81.2%. Moving on, in 1921, Fritz Pollard, which is one of our reference lists online, fritzpollard.org, really helped us gather a lot of these facts. Fritz Pollard became the first person of color hired on a professional football team. Pollard was an African-American head coach, and he coached for the Akron Pros and Hammond Pros from 1921 to 1925. And those teams are no longer in existence in the United States. And then closing out, the Indianapolis Colts became the first NFL team to hire back-to-back African-American head coaches. Now, I'll start with Tony Dungy, as you see in this picture right here, in the Super Bowl with Lovie Smith, and then he was succeeded by Jim Caldwell. Tony Dungy won 1 Super Bowl, and then Jim Caldwell just made a trip to the Super Bowl, losing. But they were both very successful head coaches in their NFL career.
As you can see in the first graph, the pie chart displays the disparity of NFL coaches from 1963 to 2005. There were 124 white NFL coaches and 17 African-American coaches that stayed in the facts. And in the second chart, the bar graph displays each year the number of African-American coaches, which is displayed by the blue bars, and the number of white coaches displayed by the red bars. And this chart shows the gap each year between white NFL coaches and African-American NFL coaches in the NFL. In the top right corner, you can see our Mr. Rooney and Mike Tomlin, who was another successful African-American coach in the NFL.
So in summary, there's been a big disparity in the NFL for black coaches. And ever since the Rooney Rule was implemented in 2003, it has fixed the problem a little bit, but not completely. As we saw before, the Detroit Lions were the first and only team in 2003 to be fined because of the Rooney Rule. And since 1963, 88% of the head coaches in the NFL have been white coaches. And currently in the 2015 season, there have been 5 black coaches.
So, for our recommendations on how to fix this problem, first we recommend that there is an increase in the required interviews for African American head coaches. There is only 1 required interview right now, and we would recommend increasing that to 2 or 3 to increase the likelihood of one of them getting hired. Our second recommendation would be to higher the amount of fines that are levied against the team that breaks the rule. Instead of a $200,000 fine that the Detroit Lions received in 2003, we recommend a loss of a draft pick or a higher amount in the fine. And for a third and final recommendation, we recommend that the Rooney Rule is implemented on the collegiate level because many head coaches are hired off of the this level and would greatly increase the number of black head coaches in the NFL. Thank you for your time.